If you're ever venturing towards the middle of the map, near Scrapyard or Maresti Station, you might stumble across Agatha's house. Agatha's house only has a population of one, Agatha herself. She is an old woman who has survived in the post-apocalypse. She used to live with her husband, but now she lives alone after her husband died. Agatha's greatest passion in life is playing the violin. However, she just kind of uses a jerry-rigged violin composed of, well, who knows what. But her dream is to play a real violin, and she just so happens to know the location of one of the most valuable violins in the entire world, the Swall Stradivarius, produced in 1714. This antique violin was made by Italian luthier Antonio Stradivari, obviously. However, it is now located in Vault 92, where we will have to go to recover it and in order to give it to Agatha. Agatha also has some useful information about Vault 92.
To begin. It all starts with my great-great-grandmother Hilda back in 2077, before the bombs fell.
You have records from back then?
Of a kind, yes. Hilda sent a good deal of letters to my great-grandmother Mary, who passed them on, and so forth. I suppose the correspondence could be considered a diary of sorts. It certainly is a long time. That precious instrument has been through a lot. Anyway, Hilda was quite a special woman, classically trained and exceptionally talented at the violin. Her pride and joy was her Stradivarius violin. I can only imagine how exquisite this instrument must have been. When the war reared its head, she was invited by Vault Tech into Vault 92. They claimed the vault would be dedicated to preserving musical talent. Vault Tech was always promoting the vaults being used for the preservation of the arts and all that nonsense. Hilda couldn't pass on a chance to meet many of the other musical talents of the world, so she accepted their invitation. Then the bombs fell, the vault was sealed, and my family never heard from her again. She kept it in a special pressurized case. Inside the case is the perfect temperature and humidity for the instrument. If the case is still functioning, the Stradivarius would be in perfect shape. Hilda's Stradivarius was named the Swall Stradivarius. All of them had names. That's what I want you to get.
And with that, we can make our way to Vault 92, where we now know Vault 92 was intended for the world's best musicians. But of course, knowing Vault Tech, something much more sinister was probably going on inside. So let's uncover what was happening. Vault 92 is located just west of Old Olney, an old town that is now infested with deathclaws, and also west of the Republic of Dave, in the far northern part of the map. Now, as you come out to Vault 92, well, it's really just out here in the middle of nowhere. There is not a whole lot around it. There are some houses and stuff like that, and of course the town of Olney off in the distance. Do be careful when you come here of deathclaws and also rad scorpions, as you can see here. However, if you approach from the south or from the west, I think you can avoid most of the big danger, besides maybe having a rad scorpion or two. Now, if we go into Vault 92, you will have that classic Fallout vault wooden door leading to the entrance. The entrance is now quite low to the ground, meaning perhaps someday Vault 92 will become buried to be lost to time. As we go inside, we can find a lot of milk bottles and aluminum cans on the ground, kind of leading out of the vault. Obviously not a normal exit. It appears that something bad happened here. As we enter, we find that the vault door is just left open, meaning any kind of creatures could easily wander in. Immediately we find a table with some energy cells on it, laser pistol, a blood pack, and 2 first aid boxes, both of which contain various healing items which will be useful as we delve deeper into the vault. Now, as we come up on our left, we will find various terminals on these tables, and then we will find a pre-war book along with Professor Malleus audio log, Vault 92, number 1. We will play these audio logs later in the vault once we've covered all 6 of them, as they include important information about what happened in the vault. As we enter the first area, we find a 4-way intersection. Obviously, we can go back outside If we go immediately north, we will find a rigged shotgun, but it's not facing towards the entrance of the vault. It is pointing towards the inner part of the vault. As we go even further, we find a skeleton with a note that says feedback loops. And if we read this note, it says, okay, pass this on after you get it. Gotta keep this crap off of the intra-vault males. If you can hack the control panels, use their noise flush feature to spook the crazies. Works okay, and it kept me alive these last 2 days. But they're starting to catch on. We need to get organized and make an attempt for the vault door. It's our only chance. So we can assume that whoever wrote this note did not make it, or the note was just taken by one of the crazies. Either way, something terrible was going on inside. But for now, we're going to go back towards the entrance, back to that four-way intersection. If we head towards the east, we will find an average locked door, and there's a frag mine immediately on the other side. This acts as a shortcut and will take you towards the recording studio within the vault. However, since we're not rushing to get the Stradivarius and we want to uncover some of the other loot and items within the vault, we're going to head towards the west where we can find the reactor room. Now this can also act as a bit of a shortcut, as going through here will lead you to the other side of that average locked door that we just picked. You will notice that the reactor area is flooded, and we will have our first encounter with Mirelurks. Now, Vault 92 is filled with a lot of Mirelurks, so do be ready. These Mirelurks are leveled, so if you're a higher level, you're going to have some Mirelurk Kings, like you will see in this room. You also have some Hunters, and I also found a couple Mirelurks, just normal Mirelurks. But killing them was actually pretty easy, especially if you have a companion with you, like I did. Having dog meat made this so much easier. We can also find some ammunition boxes on top of this crate here, so that will obviously be helpful for fighting off all of these Mirelurks. Now, eventually you'll enter a room where, well, guess it, there's more Mirelurks, but also there is a working terminal, which is actually quite interesting. And if we go over to the terminal, it'll have some very important information about what happened to this vault. Now, the first few trouble tickets are not as interesting. Trouble ticket TT007 is just talking about some of the trouble with the power converters. Ticket TT008 was, well, deleted or overwritten. And trouble ticket TT009 is talking about a sewage problem that led to, well, a really bad smell going through the air conditioning, which well, that would be terrible. But where things get really interesting is on number 10, and it reads, ongoing, I have stress fractures and water seepage in 3 areas on D level. I can only conclude that there is an adjoining underground spring or lake that is putting pressure on the concrete walls. I've already patched the stress fractures and used metal plating that we normally use for flooring to shore it up for now. I recommend we get all the engineers together on this issue and come up with some sort of more permanent solution. Otherwise, we'll be knee-deep in nasty groundwater or worse. And then, trouble ticket TT011 reads, this huge emergency was immediately addressed by our crack engineering team. We ran it up to Professor Malleus' office and deployed the fluidic lubrication injector in an effort to stop impending doom from destroying us all. Okay, fine, we oiled his damn chair. Is this really the kind of crap that's worth submitting a trouble ticket for? So we can see right away that Vault 92 had some troubling issues, but it appears that these issues were ignored, or just that Professor Malleus did not think they were so serious. Either way, we can see the effect that this flooding has had on the vault, as now the reactor room has been flooded. And then with that, we can finally make our way out of the reactor room. We'll have to kill a few more Mirelurks, but eventually we'll find a staircase and then a door that leads us to the other side of that average locked door from earlier. But again, we don't want to go that way yet, because that would lead us straight to the Stradivarius and end our quest. Instead, we're going to go to the far west and go down this staircase, where we can find the entrance to the living quarters. Immediately, you will be greeted by a fuck ton of Mirelurks, and I do not say that lightly. There were so many Mirelurks here, at least a half dozen, so I started using grenades in order to thin them out. Now, on the security terminal, there is an option to begin a white noise test, and this will actually kill all of the Mirelurks. So if you're a lower level, that would be a very good solution to this problem, unlike me, who was getting surrounded by the Mirelurks, running out of grenades, running out of ammo. So I used a plasma pistol, and thankfully Dogmeat is an absolute beast. but I'll show the location of said terminal later in the video. For now, let's head into the male dorm. Inside of the bathroom, next to this toilet, we can find sheet music. We can give this sheet music book to Agatha in return for the Black Hawk, which is a scoped 44 pistol, which is really good. Additionally, if we go into this kind of maintenance closet, we can find some ammunition boxes, a locked safe, and also a skeleton with a note, specifically John Adiglio's note, and there's also a key to data storage next to the skeleton. It also appears that the skeleton was holding this laser pistol, and there's also a rigged shotgun on the shelf there. Obviously something bad was happening. Inside of the safe, we can find some bottle caps and pre-war money. Now, John Adiglio's note reads, "I'm cut off and I don't know if anyone sane is left, so I've locked myself in this closet on B level. If anyone finds this note, let my family know I didn't go crazy like the rest of this place. Let them know that I died with dignity, when and where I decided. There's no way I'm going to let the crazies tear me apart. I can't die like that. To my wife and kids, I love all of you." And this is now the second note that we have found, which talks about some of the vault residents going crazy. So obviously something very fishy is going on in here. Now from here we can find this small living space with a pool table, and then in here we have what appears to be some kind of bar or something like that maybe. There's some darts and alcohol, and then also some cleaner. There's a foot locker with some wine in it as well. And then we can enter the woman's dormitory. Now, unfortunately, there really isn't a whole lot on this side, unlike the men's dormitory. Inside of the closet, we can find a mine box, but an empty safe, which is quite disappointing. In the bathroom, there is no sheet music, unlike in the men's dorm. However, I did find this pretty interesting. There is a teddy bear hanging out the side of the wall. You cannot, pick up the teddy bear and drag him out. Obviously, you could put him in your inventory, but this teddy bear, for the most part, is just stuck inside of the wall, and we're unable to do anything with it, which I just thought was kind of funny, and I don't know why that teddy bear is there, but perhaps it's possessed. After that, we can make our way further down into the living quarters, and we will find this hallway with several skeletons, which is the security area. And that terminal where we just saw that Nuka-Cola Quantum is how we can activate the white noise to kill the Mirelurks. Inside of this room, we will find some more Mirelurks, so if you were trying to get past them, you would want to just run for this terminal in this room. Now, you will need at least 50 science in order to access this terminal. Make sure you pick up that Nuka-Cola Quantum next to it, hack into the terminal, and then we can hit Noise Flush. Doing this will, thankfully, kill all of the Mirelurks. However, I already killed all of them, so yeah, it was just kind of pointless at that point, but I got some XP for hacking it. In this room, we can find a lot of terminals, some pulse grenades, pulse mines, and speakers. Perhaps it has to do with the experiment taking place here. Then we can find data storage entry. We can either hack the terminal or use the key that we found in the men's dormitory earlier. Inside of this room, we can find some ammunition boxes, which can be helpful along our way. Also, there's a lot of Radaway and some stim packs, which is very helpful in our journey, especially since there are some radioactive parts to this vault, but nothing that bad. The worst part is past us, and that is in the reactor area. And then heading back out of data storage, we can find Professor Malleus audio log number 4. But like I said earlier, we will play these once we have found all 6. And then in this room, which appears to be a room for surgery or a laboratory, we can find a copy of the DC Journal of Internal Medicine. And then we can also find the laboratory terminal, which starts to give us some ideas about what was going on in here. The first entry reads, "Congratulations on a job well done, everyone. It seems like the current WN tests are a complete success, with less than a 1% margin of error. We still have much to do analyzing the data, but I think all of you deserve a pat on the back for excellent work. Let's keep it up." The next entry reads, "Here's the data on subject V920717 as requested. We are completely baffled as to why someone would behave in this manner after being subjected to the WN experiments. As soon as our autopsy is complete, we'll try and piece together why he went insane. I'm sorry about this, Rick. We'll get to the bottom of it soon." The next entry reads, "We have a serious problem on our hands, and you have yet to answer my last several intra-vault mails or even see me. I have 7 more dead. 3 other Vault 92 residents have suffered the same symptoms as subject V920717. How many more of these people will have to die before you realize we're in deep trouble? We're alone out here. No one will come to our rescue, if anyone is even left. We have to deal with this ourselves. Please, I beg you to see me immediately and call your goon squad off of your living area doors." And the final entry reads, Section 4 is under heavy guard now. I can't even get in without a personal escort. It's my estimate that over 30% of the vault's entire population is now clinically insane and poses a real danger to the rest of us. We have to consider the possibility we may need to abandon the vault completely. Better to take a chance outside than in here. You still won't speak to me, and any attempt I made to see you ended in scuffles with your guards. It's obvious something's going on, and I'm going to find out what. So we can see that whatever these WN tests are caused a significant portion of the vault population to go insane. Professor John Malleus became very impatient with the vault's overseer, Richard Rubin. Now after this, we will make our way back the way we came, but this time we're going to head to the eastern part of the living quarters, where we will find a door to the main portion of the vault, and in here we will find several of these bloat flies just kind of around. As you could see earlier at the entrance, there were also some bloat flies. Obviously they probably just flew in because the vault was left wide open. Now in this average locked door, if you pick it, it will lead you back to the entrance where we found that first note a lot earlier. As you can see, there are some frag mines, so do be careful. And then here is that skeleton, and if we just continue out, we will find the vault door. But heading back in, we can see that there was quite the scuffle in this room. There are a ton of skeletons, overturned tables, blood stains all over the place. So obviously something very bad happened in here, some kind of fighting, perhaps against the insane vault residents. But there is nothing really of loot on the first floor. As we make our way to the second floor, we can find some notable loot. If we go across this way to this locked door on the left, we just have to pick it, and inside we can find the vault's supplies, or this like a general store. There's a lot of ammunition and stuff in here, which is good. Some healing items, some ammunition boxes, and most importantly, tales of a Junktown jerky vendor, which will increase our barter. And then we can also talk to Dogmeat when we're trying to pick up some darts. It's okay, Dogmeat, you're always a good boy. And after we looted the general store, we can make our way to the overseer's office. Now immediately as we enter, if we look to our left, we can find a body was crushed by this door. Quite a brutal death. We have a very easy locked door and then some barricades made by tables. There are 3 empty bedrooms, and then there's one bedroom, which is the one on the left, where we can find some useful loot. Inside of this room, if we look to our right, we can find Professor Malleus' audio log 02. Again, we'll listen to these later on. And then after this, we can actually enter the overseer's office. We'll go in through this door, walk down this looping hallway, and we will find the room. And, well, it's kind of underwhelming. There isn't a whole lot in here. We can find Professor Malleus' audio log 003. We can find a stealth boy on the overseer's desk. Perhaps he was planning an escape. The overseer could have seen the carnage taking place outside of his office. On top of the bookshelf, we can find a laser rifle. Then over here, we can find a pre-war book on this bookshelf and a copy of Duck and Cover. But besides that, there isn't anything else in the overseer's office, and the overseer himself is missing. We don't know what happened to him. And then after that, we can head to the recording studio, also known as sound testing. Immediately, if we look to our right, we will see a hallway and a staircase labeled Lab. After killing this Mirelurk in the hallway ahead of us, we will go down this staircase towards the lab. And down here, we will find a Mirelurk King. There was actually 2 of them I found down here, so just make sure you deal with them. Now, if we head to our right, immediately, we will find what appears to be some kind of cafeteria, or just like a relaxation room. There's a Nuka-Cola machine, refrigerator, and a jukebox. We can also find a pre-war book on the table over here. Now, if we head straight, we will find an average locked door, and in here we can just kind of find a maintenance closet. There's some chems and stuff on this bookshelf, some ammunition, and then a locked safe containing a lot of caps, almost 100 caps, so not too bad. Also some stim packs. Now, if we go to the right, we can find the recording areas, or the sound testing. If we go left, we will find a terminal, along with Dr. Malleus' audio log 06, and a copy of Nikola Tesla and You next to the studio computer. Now, if we access the studio computer, we can actually turn on the recording studio. This will open up the door and turn on the lights. Also, there are 3 log entries on this terminal. Now, in these emails between Parker Livingston, the studio supervisor, and one of the violinists, Hilda Egelbrecht, I hope I said that right, we find that Parker appears to have been a kind of womanizer and that he was trying to have private sessions with Hilda. We can also find a mention of the Stradivarius, but perhaps most noticeable, in their first email, we learned that Parker did detect another signal leaking in from somewhere in the vault. He thought it was strange and perhaps there was cross-wiring issues. I do wonder if this has to do with the white noise that we've kind of heard about up until now, but obviously we don't really know. But anyways, we will now make sure to open up the recording studio and we will make our way into that room. As you can see, the lights just popped on. We will go in, we find a skeleton with a laser pistol leaning against the door. We can also find some skeletons just kind of strewn about the room. There is an easy lock safe with a stealth boy and some bottle caps. And in the very back, we can find the Swal Stradivarius. While it looks like it says soil, it is actually pronounced swal. This violin is the reason we are here, and in the Fallout universe, since in Fallout 3 it is the year 2277, this violin is 563 years old. Pretty darn incredible. After that, we will continue our way throughout the rest of the lab, killing any Mirelurks that we find. Eventually, we will find this kind of like classroom. This Mirelurk King will scare the shit out of you, but then we will go back to looting about the classroom where a projector is still on, kind of creepy. Now, over here next to this terminal, we can find the last of Professor Malleus's audio logs, 05, and then we can find a small recording studio. But since we now have all of the audio logs, let's take a listen from 1 to 6.
So far, the experiment is going exactly as planned. We're subjecting the residents to extremely low-frequency white noise, regular intervals through the loudspeaker system. Using the soundproof recording studios, the musicians was an inspired idea. Kudos to the Vault-Tec Selection Committee on their shrewdness. I've been encouraged by the latest batch of data. It seems that 33% of the subjects are now lapsing into a trance-like state on occasion. When in this state, we're fairly certain that suggestion and programming of the subject can be applied. We've begun testing this by implanting subtle cues in affected subjects, making them scratch their ear or constantly fix their hair. So far, I'm happy to report a 100% success rate on this implementation method. Disaster today. One of our test subjects, V920717, has murdered 3 other residents in a fit of unbridled rage, the likes of which I've never seen. It took almost 23 shots before the security team took him down. This subject has no history of violence or mental instability whatsoever. My concern is that this subject is one of our most successful implant recipients, able to execute complex instructions during a trance state. Unbelievable! We've had 12 more incidents in the past month mirroring subject V920717's actions. The shocking part is the savagery these aberrants exhibit when they murder. They rip their victims apart limb from limb and eviscerate them by hand. These used to be respected members of the musical community. How could this be happening? Where have I gone wrong? The situation is getting out of hand. Over half the population of the vault is exhibiting savage tendencies. I can only assume our noise experimentation has awakened some dormant part of their psyche, brought their primitive nature to the surface. In essence, I feel that they are almost psychologically devolving. I was stupid for rushing these experiments. And now over 35 people are dead. I can't believe what I've discovered. Just before he died, one of the security team members told me everything. The Overseer has been implanting these murderous intentions in the entire Vault population without my knowledge. Using the loudspeakers in the dorms instead of just the studios, he subjected everyone to the white noise as they slept. He then implanted combat suggestions he claims came from Vault-Tec itself. He must be completely insane. No observation, no controls. I'm going to have to confront him now and make him pay for what he's done. Half the Vault is dead. The other half, fighting for its life. Good luck to all of us. And may God have mercy on our souls.
And just like that, we learn about the twisted truth that happened within Vault 92. An overseer drunk on power, trying to create the perfect soldier. To make things even more depressing, in the next room we can find Zoe Hammerstein's terminal. And on these terminals we can find 4 entries. The first of which reads, Zoe's thoughts. It's so wonderful to be surrounded by all this talent. Little old me, who can barely play the violin, is sitting among some of the world's greatest musicians. I still can't believe my luck. Today was great too. I was able to record an entire symphony. Haydn's Symphony No. 3 in D minor. It was so beautiful. I could barely keep up with everyone else in the string section, but they were so nice. They encouraged me instead of being stuffy jerks or something. Best of all, they record all of it, and then they let you hear yourself play on the studio speakers. I can't wait until tomorrow. I hear we're doing a piece from Dvorak. The next entry, more of Zoe's thoughts, reads, I've been feeling a little sick lately, kind of woozy after playing in the studio usually. It gets so stuffy in that place, but it's sure worth it. I know I'm getting better just from watching my fellow violinists' techniques. They don't even mind giving me some pointers. Tonight, a bunch of us girls from the string section are going down to the rec hall for a dance. I hope that cute sound guy Parker asked me to dance. He's dreamy. The next entry, titled More of Zoe's Thoughts, reads, I'm not feeling very good. I can't concentrate. I went to Dr. Benson's office, but he just said it's stress and to take it easy for a while. I think all the time I am spending in the sound studio. It's making me tired and I can barely type anymore. I am shaking so much. The next entry is titled, Kill, Please. Help me. This entry is a mess. It is hard to read, but we'll do our best. If order our help me, lost mine, can do, stop them, get out of my head. For me, this entry sends chills down my spine. This old, harmless lady was turned into an incoherent mess, wishing death upon herself or perhaps someone else. This vault is very creepy, and honestly, I just want to get out at this point. We'll go to this final room in sound recording, and in here we can find one final piece of loot, a pre-war book. After this, we'll go out through the door. We will find one last operation room with a lot of filing cabinets, but there's nothing of interest in here. And then we will find that sweet exit, and then find that sweet old sun. We look back on Vault 92, thankful we never have to enter again, but we will remember what happened inside to try and prevent it from happening again. We will now return to Agatha and give her the violin that she so desired. Who knows how her great-great-grandmother survived Vault 92? It appears, though, that there were not many survivors. Perhaps she was one of the only ones. But Agatha is very happy for giving her the Stradivarius, and we can rest easily knowing that such an important piece of history is in safe hands. Agatha will now broadcast her violin play on the radio for the player to listen to whenever they want. Additionally, she will give us access to the ammunition box next to her, which contains various ammunition that used to belong to her deceased husband. And then finally, if you give her the sheet music book, she will reward you with the Black Hawk. Just make sure you choose the middle option where you expect some kind of reward. This is the neutral karma option. Choosing the first option will result in you receiving a lot of positive karma. However, you will not receive the Black Hawk, which is kind of sad. Personally, the Black Hawk is one of my favorite weapons in the entire game, so I definitely want to make sure that I get my hands on it. And there we have it, Wastelanders, Vault 92. It was meant to preserve the world's greatest musicians and some of its most renowned instruments. However, Professor Malleus and Overseer Richard Rubin were actually testing white noise and a sonic experiment designed to implant hidden messaging and hypnosis. However, little did Professor Malleus know, Richard Rubin had far more extreme intentions implanting images and ideas of killing inside of Vault 92's residents. Ultimately, majority of Vault 92's residents succumb to paranoia, rage, hallucinations, and ultimately insanity. The vault literally tore itself apart from there, as each and every one of them were killed. The halls of Vault 92 fell silent, except for the echoes of a forgotten past, and a past that should be remembered, so that those that did die and suffer did not do so in vain. The terminal of Zoe Hammerstein just shows why I think this vault is so chilling. Speaking of Zoe Hammerstein, she gets her name from the Broadway lyricist and songwriter Oscar Hammerstein II. The GNR song, I'm in Love with a Wonderful Guy, is actually from Rodgers and Hammerstein's musical South Pacific. Just a cool little Easter egg. Additionally, the overseer Richard Rubin's name is a homage to musical producer Rick Rubin. Also on the Overseer's terminal, we can find a phrase, "Sanity is not statistical." This is a reference to George Orwell's book, 1984. And last, one of the residents, Gordon Sumner, is the name of the musician Sting. So Vault 92 is just a very interesting look at some of the experiments that Vault Tech did, and just kind of shows how horrifying they really were. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Vault Delver. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. What do you think of Vault 92? Do you have good memories of playing through this place? Do you think it's just as scary as I do? Again, thank you so much for watching, and as always, until next time.